So, you think getting EU funding is just about having a great idea? Think again. In this episode, we break down the real keys to success with EU funding and proposals. First, we'll explore the final part of the PRP framework, which is about proposals. And we'll be revealing how top scoring proposals are crafted to secure funding. And we'll see a tool that will drop in your email shortly. Be attend. Then we'll dive into an exclusive interview with Luis-Esteban. He's an EU evaluator and is the creator of Europea Red, which is a startup that helps startups. And there we discuss startup financing, proposal evaluation secrets, and the unique results of handicapped entrepreneurs. And finally, we'll analyze a live funding call, Horizon Europe call about hydrogen. Maybe the Commission is finally getting serious about hydrogen. Listen, watch the episode, take notes, get ready, please subscribe, please like, please share, and I hope you enjoy it. Bye.
Welcome back to InnovEU, the EU Project Chronicles. Today, we're diving into the final and most crucial step of securing EU funding, crafting proposals that score high and win funding. You've defined your project relevance and implementation plan, but now we structure everything to maximize evaluation scores. Evaluators review hundreds of proposals. Your job? Make their job easy. Follow the exact structure of the call text. Use clear, persuasive, and structured language. Anticipate and eliminate doubts. Be crystal clear. Think of your proposal as storytelling. Make it compelling and easy to scan. A winning proposal must cover 3 key areas: problem and policy fit. Clearly define the problem, align with EU policies, and use key phrases from the call. Research excellence and impact. Detail innovative approaches, measurable outcomes, and scaling potential. Partnership strength and execution. Show a well-balanced consortium, clear roles, and risk mitigation strategies. Use the Build Your Winning Consortium with AI tool available on our Substack to strengthen your partnership section. Before submitting, ask yourself, is your proposal clear, persuasive, and easy to evaluate? Does it explicitly answer why it should be funded? We're launching an AI-powered tool that boosts your proposal's evaluation by 10 points. Subscribe to InnovEU to get it first.
So welcome everyone to InnovEU, the EU Project Chronicles. Today we have Luis-Fernando Robledano-Esteban with us. He's talking to us from Spain, and he's my neighbor. Okay, so he's not representing any institution. He'll present himself better, but mostly he's working with creating a startup. And well, tell us, Luis, where are you? And what's your experience with the EU-funded projects?
Okay, so first, thank you very much, Fernando. We say in Spanish we are tocayos because my name is Luis Fernando. So yeah, and I used to say my experience. Well, first thing, I'm the founder of Europea Red, and it's the marketplace of public funding for innovative small and medium-sized companies, including startups. And I just created this project. So we are a startup helping startups, okay? And here basically is we are helping startups reach European funding. And I mean that funding that comes directly from the European Commission, not the national ones, not those like all this next generation is public funds that come from Europe, but in the end, it's each of the countries who manages the money. Okay, so there are other funding available provided by the European Commission, and we are speaking about 100,000 million euros or 100 billion euros, depending where you're from.
That's some money. Some money.
Yeah, that's money. Yeah, and most companies, startups in particular, we tend to go to, we think we pitch to investors and then we get the money in the pocket, and it's not like that. and I'm helping startups to get this funding, but I'm not acting as a consultant. Okay, so the goal is to have a marketplace.
You are a startup helping startups, and I think that's a brilliant concept. But how did you get here? Why would you do that? What's your history? How did you get here?
So I've been involved in European projects since I'm a computer engineer. So since I reached my first degree in 1998, I was already involved in European funding, and at that time at universities. Okay, and well, fine. We got money to do some research. But I always thought that many companies, or that the money could be better used if provided to some innovative companies. Why? Because in many cases, public funds go to research institutes. They have great projects. I can tell a couple of anecdotes regarding that, but great projects that get the funding, but then they make some innovation that never reaches the market, or in some case, and this is one of the anecdotes, I saw a project that basically was pretty silly in the concept. Is when you are buying glasses, and I have wear glasses, you may have had problems with when you are buying new ones, you want to look how it looks like in your face. But of course, these ones that you are testing, they don't have the same degree. Okay, so you don't see your face well if you look into the mirror with one of those frames. So this is an example. And what they developed, or we developed in this institution over 20 years ago, was basically, it was putting on your face, it was putting the image of the glasses, so you could see on a screen how it fits your face. Okay, 20 years afterwards, I saw a company doing that, exactly the same. So there is a 20 years gap, so a waste of time that could have been that could have been in the market. And it's because many times what is developed in a university, it stays there. So nobody realizes that exists. So that's how everything started. I wanted to help some projects, ideas get into the market.
And you also worked as an evaluator in the past, didn't you?
Yeah, and I do. Yeah, and in the present,
So do you like it? Do you like doing that? What's your experience?
I do like it, and I think it's the same reason why I got involved with startups and the project I have at hand now, European Red. It's a way to be in connection with all the innovations. When I was working in research like for 5 years, and then in innovation for so many years as well. So in 2015, I became project proposal evaluator for the European Commission. Okay, so from time to time, I received some projects to evaluate, to give my opinion on the topics I know of. And that was in 2015. At that time, 1 year before I started my previous startup, and it's when I realized that I met so many startups with cool ideas, even better than, in general, I would say on average, better than the projects I was getting to evaluate, than I thought. There is still this gap missing. There is a bridge that we must build. So to help all these innovators that now are looking for private funding for investors, they should try public funding. And that's
we'll get back to that, but before we dive into that, I think the audience would kill me if I didn't make this question. What's your advice as an evaluator? What's your advice to someone writing a proposal from your experience?
I always say the same, and it seems nobody. The rules that I have to follow, or how I must evaluate proposals, are public. So I have to look at a form and evaluate a project according to that form. And really, maybe I have evaluated, now not that many, I get a few each year, I don't know, like 20. Okay, so it's not my core. It's just none of them seem to have checked that form, because I would really write the proposal trying to fit according to the questions I have to answer as evaluator. I have to answer to myself, okay, do I have to evaluate this? You have to look at this, and that has to be public by law, okay, in Europe, in any program. So that would be my advice. Check, because it should be public, the document that the evaluator should be following to evaluate the proposal. And then you will get a better project.
Very practical tip. Thank you. I think it will be very useful to a lot of people writing proposals. Okay, so thank you for that. But okay, let's get back to the idea of the startup helping startups. You're saying that it's possible for startups to get funding in Europe, because there's this idea that goes around the media that if you have a good idea for a startup, you better go to the States because you can't find the money in Europe. Is this idea wrong?
No, it's neither wrong. I think it's true. We are far away from the United States, or even, I would say, even from UK. But still, Europe actually what did is, okay, the United States, they have the money. They are a lot of investors. People don't know, but actually because investors have to follow some rules that don't exist here in Europe. So it means that they have more money to give away. Here, everybody can be an investor and put the label if they invest in one startup. In the United States, they have to prove that they have money more than enough to invest. So they are more willing to lose money. Okay, that's why in Europe we are very risk averse. And in the case of Europe, what they try to do is, okay, we have, well, and a lot of inventions, in particular, I don't know, from the DVD or MP3 or things like that, were invented here. Europe tries to promote those inventions to get into the market through public money. Okay, so it would be so that the imbalance between the United States and Europe is not that high. Okay, still there is difference, but on the other hand, it's much easier to reach this European funding than to reach investors. I always tell, if you check the data, the success rate of getting investors is below 1%. People think that they just go pitch to a couple of investors and then they get a money transfer. And it's a process that takes over a year, okay? Or on average, it's around a year, because an investor wants to know how you proceed and whether you follow a plan or how. European funding, on average, the success rate is 10%. It depends on the program. The program that is the lowest is around 3%, so it's still 3 times bigger to private investors. But there are some programs like and I can say is the EU Stars. I'm an evaluator for. The success rate is around 25%. Okay, so 1 out of 4 projects get the funding.
That's quite different.
Yeah, exactly. And I think in many cases it's even more important the fact that the success rate is not only high, is that you get the answer and the money much faster. If the process with investors is 1 year, I have as a directive, as a rule, I have to make my evaluation in 1 week, top 2 weeks if I have more than 3 to evaluate. And that may give you a sense or an idea of how fast that moves. The internal directive is that the company should get the funds, the money, in 3 months from the deadline of the application. So it's a process that takes 3 months, okay? And well, this is a medium program, so companies get between 300,000 euros, or the whole project could be more, even over 1 million. That's a medium size. The small ones for startups that maybe 50,000 euros, 100,000 euros, I got one of those. I prepared the proposal in 1 week. I didn't have a business plan. I just had a pitch. Okay, so I created everything in 1 week. I got the answer like in 2 months, and I got the money. The success rate in those cases, or in that case, there were 100 startups got the funding, and the information they gave us is that there were about 200 startups that applied. So success rate, it was actually over 50%. So
in a way, you're saying that it's not that Europe is not doing anything; it's putting serious money into it. But you're saying that Draghi is right in his famous last year report when he says that we lag behind, Europe lags behind the United States and China in that area, in the innovation area, for lack of investment.
I wouldn't only blame the money. I think the people, I used to say that, come on, we travel and we reach Americas. I mean, they were entrepreneur people 500 years ago. But it's true in America. Well, by the way, I didn't mention it. I'm in Spain, from Spain, but I was living in Germany 6 years, and I was living in the United States 1 year. And what I saw there, everything there is about entrepreneurship. So people from kids are starting businesses. Okay, and I really mean that. Kids. I got to know one with my previous startup. He started with an idea to help people with disabilities. When he was 8, started developing an app. But the parents, they were going to the news and to some programs extremely famous, and parents were supporting him because they saw that the guy wanted and that it could have an impact. That would be unthinkable, I would say, here in Europe.
Yeah. That would be child exploration, child labor.
Also, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. So it's not just the money; it's also a cultural thing. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this answer of the European Commission, these new investments, putting more money into it. What you're saying is it won't be enough. It won't do the trick. It will still lag behind.
I think they have to change other things. For example, by the way, now it was 100 billion, but this was the budget before all the problems with all the pandemic, or they didn't count the money that they were providing, for example, for research and innovation in science, but also because of the war in Ukraine. So there have been actually more money to do stuff there. So the budget, I don't know the total number, but could be even more. So I think that's good. For example, in the previous program was 30% less budget. But one thing that I like, there were some programs called, it was the SME instrument. They were giving away a lot of money in little packets of 50,000 euros to hundreds or thousands of companies. And I think that's a very good idea. Now they say, no, because actually it wasn't having the impact they were expecting. Probably because they wanted a success rate much higher than companies. But you really have to lose in order to create a mentality on people that it's okay to fail. It didn't work, okay. But then that person will try it a second time with a different project, like I'm doing, by the way.
So let's talk about your own project. If I have a startup I created with some friends, we have this wonderful new product or just an idea, how can you help me? Why should I reach to you?
Maybe let me step back, because I will emphasize that not only me. So Europe first, for you to know that, for example, you can even apply for public funding, European funding. Well, you need a requirement, innovation. You really have to have an innovative idea.
Something really new and important.
Really new that usually nobody in Europe is doing it. It's even good that there are some people in America doing it, because we don't want to get behind. But so that's the first thing, has to be an innovation. But the good news is that you actually don't need to have incorporated a company till you get the funds. So you can even apply without the company founded. And in the case of Spain, for example, but yeah, I know in other countries, if you are self-employed, so if you have a VAT number, let's say you pay taxes, you can apply with that. You don't need to be a company, incorporated as a company. Okay, so then what we do, there are many consultants. There are about 40,000 consultants in this topic to help small and medium-sized companies across Europe.
40,000?
Like 40,000. And actually counting people like me that help startups, but from the other side, like evaluating and giving opinion for the European Commission, there are like 65,000. Okay? So it means in total, there are like 100,000 people that could help a startup in Europe.
Okay, that's a lot of people.
Exactly. And the problem is that if you want to look for people, there is no platform, there is no place. That's what we started develop. Is when I realized the first idea is I had to drop the project and was about tourism. So with the pandemic, everything, well, I have to close it. Then I thought, how can I help? And I thought I can be a consultant. And when I started to look about the market, and I realized that it's so difficult to see whether a consultant can help me or not. So it came the idea, let's create a platform where I can compare consultants exactly the same as you can compare houses and Airbnb. So a marketplace. So that's the original idea. Okay. And then I started with Europea Red. First, even in YouTube, you can find videos that I was planning to be a consultant, so the very beginning, and then afterwards is, okay, let's create the market, let's focus on creating the market.
So it's a marketplace.
Exactly. To make the connection between the program, the people who want to apply to a program, and the experts that can help that people, startups or small and medium-sized companies. Okay.
So I create a startup. I know nothing about EU funding. I know nothing about supporting programs, but I'm quite interested. So I go to the marketplace and I look for people who can help me. Basically, that's what you're saying.
That was the original idea. So basically that was. But then I realized that as a startup, we are continuously learning about what's actually the problem. And the problem was that people, I have said how much money is available, but that means that at any given time, there are between 500 and 1,000 open calls with Euro terms. So it's like between 500 and 1,000 opportunities for me to get funding. The problem is a startup, you would need one person full-time, just checking all the time the official websites, and in some cases are not even in the official websites. So a startup cannot afford that you cannot spend one person just to look for them. I didn't mean to apply. And so the next reflection was, well, almost it doesn't matter if I have to look for the funding for one startup or for 1,000. I still go through all of them, and then I dispatch or I stamp according to the call, the funding program. For example, if it's for traveling or is AI or is, and then do the same with the startups. In other words, I have to still go through the 1,000 open calls, and to each of the startups, I send those, I can let them know which ones apply to them. So I save all this time. And for me, okay, there is a little bit more time, but it's not like I need 1,000 people looking for those grants. Okay.
Sure.
So, and that's actually is after created the marketplace, that's a service we provide. Okay. Well, it's a service that startups pay for, but we say it's 50 euros a month. So we say for the price that you would pay for a consultant half an hour, we give the service of one person full-time a month. That's basically the idea. And then we send that report that fits exactly the startup. So the startup doesn't need to look for more. They just read from that report and also evaluate, or I think it's very valuable that in this report, we make a summary in one paragraph about the program. So you don't need to read 5 pages just to understand whether the program fits your startup or doesn't.
Yeah, if I'm running a startup, I don't have the time to read 4 pages. So that paragraph will be gold.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's exactly the point. But still, we keep the official link. So the startup decides if they want to apply, perfect. They have the official link. If they realize that, okay, it's big money, they want to go to a consultant, then the marketplace enters into place.
Okay, so it's more than a marketplace, actually. Okay.
Exactly. And and actually, it's called the problem of marketplaces. Is that they call it the chicken and egg problem of marketplaces. So imagine Airbnb. Why somebody would put their apartment into with pictures and everything if there are no people looking for apartments, and why would people would get into the platform if there are no apartments? It's in any marketplace you need both sides at the same time.
Yeah.
And we actually solve it because for the first service, we call it the Rocket, this service, we don't need the consultants. We are doing it internally. And when the startup says, I want to apply to this program, then we do the perfect match with the startups and with consultants. Okay, this startup wants to apply to this program, and then we connect with consultants that maybe have experience in that specific program or in something very similar if the program didn't exist before.
Okay, what are your geographic limitations, if any? I mean, if I'm creating a startup in Tunisia, will you help me? If I want to apply, if I want support from some program and I find out there's a Chinese supporting program, will you help me? Are there any limits?
Not at the moment. At the moment, it's Europe. Why? Because 2 reasons. First, or 3 reasons. First, as a startup, you have to be focused on market that might be, has some commonalities. The second is that it's a market I know because I evaluate projects for the European Commission. Okay,
sure.
But the third stage or the second stage would be to solve that part. Is to public funding is growing everywhere. Okay, actually, the European Commission has agreements with third-party countries, or for example, UK now can participate since beginning or the end 2 years ago. They are not the European Union, but they can also participate. So it's better to grow from something small to be focused. And I couldn't, some even advisor or investors suggested me, no, but then focus just on Spain. No, because for the European Commission, it doesn't matter what country. And actually, our first customer was Germany. Okay, was from Germany. So, and there would be time, as right now is Europe, the continent that is providing more money for public funding, but they are coming afterwards. The United States also are increasing the investment or public investment in new projects, so it will come.
So it's in your plan, not now, but in the future. Okay, good. I don't know what. So you're talking about the future and your plans. Can you somehow summarize what will be your future?
Yeah, so far we already have customers. We started to make the connections with consultants. And the next step is how we are going to develop the market, is how to reach startups, for example, through accelerator programs. Okay, so they are in connection. Investors, because investors could really profit. Investors can lower their risk if they get the public funding for their startups. Okay, so those are some steps we are doing. And actually with investors, it goes both directions. We can provide investors, if the startups allow us, if they are also interested in private investment, we could make the connection with investors, and the other way around. For investors, we could look for the funding that would match their startups. So
No,
that
let
would
me
be
just
the
interrupt you to say that from my own experience, what I always see is investors complaining they can find no good projects, and startups complain they can't find any good investors. So you're somehow trying to be that connection between the two.
uh, in some sense, and that's why it's attractive to investors. In some sense, the European Commission does a filtering. When they provide a grant, it means that technically, this startup or a small and medium-sized company is the top 10%, according to experts across Europe. So you lower the risk. That means, because usually investors, they know a lot about the market, of course, about the funding or private investment, but it's generally about the market, or maybe not even, okay? And in this case, it's about the technology. They know maybe, well, they used to learn a lot because of the startups they have had or companies they have had, but maybe they are missing about the new innovations. And maybe it's too risky for investors. But if they see that, hey, this company got a grant and has been evaluated by experts on that topic and the top experts across Europe, you are lowering the risk. Okay, so
it's
and they don't
a
have to
quality
provide
stamp.
that much money. Yeah.
Yeah, so I see your point. Yeah, and it's really a good filter. Okay, so we have to close. I told you that time would be short. Is there a final message you want to talk about? Any idea for closing?
Well, let me say two. One, what I said, they even forget about the European already. Think about the public funding. Goes to every startup. Think about the European public funding. By the way, I'm not getting into national ones. Usually are much more complicated and slower. And I know different countries, and is that the case? So go for the European funding, okay? And then the other message that we spoke about that the other day, because I always mention it, I am an entrepreneur with handicaps because I had a stroke, and people don't know that the success rate of entrepreneurs with handicaps is much higher. Also, I explained to you, I think it's in general, you get used not to give up, okay? So it's something that maybe other people, they are risk averse. When you have handicaps or some disability, you have been beaten up so many times or with silly things that is much more difficult. You drop it. So I also encourage entrepreneurs with handicaps, to follow their instinct, because usually the success rate, by the way, exactly the same as female entrepreneurs, the success rate is also higher than male entrepreneurs.
That's a completely new episode. We must record one of these days, because female entrepreneurs, handicapped entrepreneurs, migrant entrepreneurs, that is this idea that that really is not important. That really is secondary. What really counts is the male, healthy, national guy creating a startup, right? That's how we got to the tech bros. Basically, it's an industry made with men. So I think that there's a good theme for different episodes, I'm sure.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so thank you very much for this time. Thank you for this interview. Your contacts will be in the podcast notes. So I always remember the audience, if they want to get in touch with the guests, look for the podcast notes and you'll find your contacts. Thank you very much, and see you soon.
Thank you, really, Fernando. Thank you very much. And yes, please, whomever wants to get in touch, the information we'll provide will be fine. I'd say always LinkedIn is pretty agile, or even the website. If they leave a note there, I read everything. Okay, so that's fine. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye.
Have a nice day.
The future of clean energy is here. Are you ready to lead the next wave of hydrogen innovation? Introducing the Horizon Europe Clean Hydrogen Call 2025. Horizon JU Clean 2-2025. 2025-01-06 focuses on hydrogen and solid carbon production from renewable gases and biogenic waste processes. Who can apply? Legal entities from EU member states and Horizon Europe associated countries must include at least one partner from Hydrogen Europe or Hydrogen Europe Research. Funding available. Total budget, 8 million euros. Maximum EU contribution per project, 8 million euros. Important dates, call opens, January 15th, 2025, submission deadline, April 23rd, 2025. What are we looking for? Circular economy solutions, improve cost efficiency and scalability, reduced environmental impact, real-world business models. Why apply? Be at the forefront of hydrogen innovation, contribute to Europe's Green Deal, and drive the clean energy transition. For more details, visit the Funding and Tenders portal, your gateway to EU research funding. Join the hydrogen revolution. Apply now and power the future.
InnovEU, the EU Project Chronicles, is a weekly video podcast. Please subscribe to Polixox newsletter to receive every podcast episode. And if you like receiving it, please press like in whatever platform you are watching or listening. Also, please share InnovEU and Polixox with anyone you feel will enjoy it. Credits, author and host Fernando C. Gaspar, music Hugo Gaspar, Lisbon, Portugal, 2024. Reach us by email or DM.